Welcome to the RSP NFL Lens. I'm Matt Waldman with the Rookie Scouting Portfolio. We're going to take a look at Ezekiel Elliott's 2021 season. I think that he's been much maligned over the past few years in the media. Some of that has to do with, I think, a faulty analysis of data that lacks game context. And this is a good example of that. You're going to see that you have 8 men in the box against Ezekiel Elliott on this play. Did you know that the player they're comparing him to, Tony Pollard, only had 4% of his runs last year where he had more than 7 defenders in the box, whereas Elliott had 70% of runs with 6 to 7 in the box, and 6% of his runs had 8 in the box. Another 12% total had 8 or more in the box. Elliott also had twice as many snaps, more than twice as many snaps as Pollard. So when you look at the context of what he was facing, Elliott's facing more difficult scenarios. He's also facing more run-oriented scenarios than Pollard, and he's facing them in down and distance situations as well as field position situations that defenses are more prone to defend the run and gear up towards defending him than they were Pollard. And when you look at a play like this is one of those examples, and Elliott does a good job here. This is the first game of the season before the ligament injury that he had in October that slowed him down, that people aren't talking about when the anonymous GM said that he doesn't seem to have the same burst. Well, the anonymous GM's probably busy with his own team to know that Ezekiel Elliott was dealing with a ligament issue that slowed him down. But you see here early in the season does a good job of drawing up Devin White, Pro Bowl caliber linebacker Devin White, drawing him up in here, getting him blocked, and then bouncing it outside, beating White to the corner, getting to the cornerback here, and making a nice transitional cut downhill. I mean, no extra steps here. Look at that. No extra steps to cut downhill. That is star caliber transitioning work in terms of going from a perimeter track to a downhill track. Still has it. And when we talk about elusiveness rating, elusiveness rating for PFF, they talk about that as, when blockers aren't involved, when they don't get yards for the running back, can the running back get yards for himself against a defender either by making the man miss or breaking a tackle? Well, this is one of those situations where they don't explain, they can't explain every situation of how they score and grade. I mean, because they have a number of people doing the grading, and there's a lot of variation that's likely involved with that grading if it's not perfectly defined or, really defined in great detail. And one of those potential defects that you wonder about is, what about a situation like this where the defense has you hemmed in, you have a lot of defenders in the box, you see the cornerback come out, hem in the cutback opportunity as you come downhill here. And the fact that he comes downhill and you have 54 who's able to beat the center's combo block and just avoid it altogether and meet Elliott in the hole, what's Elliott supposed to do there? I mean, this is the option he has to take. He's not going to cut outside and go laterally against the defender who has that force angle on the cutback side. He's going to have to come downhill against this linebacker who's waiting in the hole. He takes what he can get. This is a positive play. He stays on his feet. His lineman can help out. How would you grade this? Well, he's not very elusive. If you have enough of these types of plays where you're not very elusive, and I understand that, usually a sample size can bear out. That's the argument. Well, sometimes that works. Sometimes that doesn't. And in situations like these, there's also judging whether the guy makes good decisions in unfavorable circumstances. He made a good decision in an unfavorable circumstance. This is another typical scenario for Elliott. You're going to see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 offensive players to 7 defensive players. You're going to see the safety right here, number 28. Watch what he does. He kind of hides inside here. Elliott, as he's working downhill, he may see that defensive back in the box pre-snap, but post-snap, he's not going to see that. And he's going to head downhill towards that open crease. When the defender pops out, what's he going to do? Is this a bad decision? Is it realistic that he should avoid him? There aren't any backs who are going to avoid that angle. So are you going to grade against him for that? You're going to grade him against him for angles like that where the defense has the superior numbers, the superior alignment. in this run scheme? I don't think so. Not in contextual football, you won't. And let's talk about burst, because, you know, the NFL GM, the anonymous one who said he doesn't have a lot of burst in the ESPN poll of top 10 running backs, that the burst is gone. Well, early in the season, he just beats Devin White, one of the faster linebackers in the NFL, to the boundary, to the far side boundary. He's on the far hash. I know that the hash isn't as far as it is in college, but he's still able to work outside and beat that defender and get into the secondary. That's still starter level acceleration at a high level. And it's not like 45 had anybody truly in his way to accelerate through here. Watch this. Downhill, immediately turns outside, beaten to the punch. So was the safety. Here's the safety on the outside hash. Or the cornerback, excuse me. Cornerback comes off that block, doesn't have the acceleration to beat Elliott too at full speed. Elliott still has the gear to be able to get big plays. And big plays are 10-yard gains. This one is over 10 yards. Again, am I cherry picking with, you know, linebackers getting free angles downhill? I don't think so. Just beat his blocker, number 66, to the punch. Are we penalizing the blocker on this particular situation for Devin White being able to get through? I mean, here's 66. He doesn't get to his combo block in time, and look at White right downhill. What's Elliott supposed to do right there? Is he going to cut it back the opposite direction? Don't think so. Not based on how you would read this. He's trying to go towards that double team, and when this is missed, that's the primary key. That's the first read. He's got to take what he can get. He's not elusive because he didn't make this play? I don't think so. He's still quick enough to get to the edge on design plays. Here's a toss play. He gets to the edge, makes a nice cut inside of 54. I believe that's David. Gets inside and pulls through that defensive back to get a positive gain here. Nice power towards the end here with that, again, a very efficient transition. Basically a one-step transition downhill and carries that defender for about 3 or 4 yards. This play is basically an 8-on-9 advantage for the defense in the playoffs. This is after Elliott injured the ligament in his leg. Two free runners by the defense into the backfield. Where's Elliott going to go? Is he going to get penalized for not being elusive enough here? Lacking football context if you do. You know what you need in order to create power to be able to pull defensive linemen who wrap you in the hole like this? Well, you need some leverage, which is great pad level, but you also need acceleration. You need to generate that acceleration to generate the momentum to be able to pull these defenders for extra yardage. Elliott still has that in great supply. All right, you basically have 9 defenders in the box here against 9 blockers. The puller's not really, able to get to that edge fast enough for the edge defender to, cut off that edge defender. But look at Elliott. Elliott's still able to bounce this outside. 71 does a decent job of being able to knock that defender down in the backfield, but Elliott has to widen his path in order to avoid him, and he beats that defensive back around the corner. He's able to beat the linebacker enough to be able to, pull through a reach and get some hard yards. A lot of that still is his burst, even with the injury. Tough running. This is essentially an 8-in-the-box play and a toss going where the defense has the advantage. You have 1, 2, 3 defenders against 2 blockers right here. You've got a 4th defender that's not going to be blocked against these 3 blockers who are actually engaged. And Elliott spots this, and he's able to come to a quick stop, reverse field, and turn a negative play for a big loss into a positive play that's nearly a first down. You're going to tell me that he's not quick enough, not explosive enough on a toss play, having to reverse field on a toss play where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defenders against 2, maybe generously 3 blockers in this scenario where the play is supposed to develop? Yeah, I'll take that. I'll also take these 9 defenders in the box and watch Elliott here bounce this outside, beat a defensive back to the far sideline. Maybe not cleanly beating him, but he beats this unblocked cornerback far enough to the edge to reach that edge. He gets pushed out of bounds. He loses his balance, but he's not wrapped up in the backfield. That's a first down. That's acceleration. And this 12-yard gain is one of the cleanest straight line runs I've seen in much of his tape last year, where actually everything's blocked up the way you would design it, all the way up to the wide receiver on the defensive back. That's rare for him. Whereas with other backs, they were in scenarios where maybe you saw a little bit more of that. Again, Elliott's still good enough to be a very good starter in this league, and he was operating without his burst. He was operating in difficult situations, and he still shined and produced well. I wouldn't write this guy off.